This organization that I'm involved with, as Rick mentioned, COSA, the Committee on Sustainability Assessment, is part of a global consortium that includes a couple of UN agencies, and includes one of the leaders is the International Institute for Sustainable Development, and many, many others. And some of our partners are here in the room. We're interested in what works and what doesn't about these certifications, because we really think they're an extraordinary opportunity to create a market mechanism for doing good. We're trying to go beyond the surface of things to say, everybody chases this idea of price premiums. How much are you getting for what certification? And we'd like to point out that they're really, I mean, it's interesting, it's important certainly to pay a good price for coffee, there's no question, but there are other economic factors that matter just as much, if not more. I'd like to give you a little taste of some of the stuff that's just beginning to come out. It hasn't been shown anywhere. We're looking at these things in a number of countries with partners. And the first one is from one of our partners in Colombia, where we looked at several thousand farms statistically selected with control groups, excellent sampling, 90+% level of confidence that this is true. And we looked at all of the certifications, compared them to conventional on this particular factor, productivity. It surprised the heck out of me, because we always thought that usually, and this is true, by the way, in some other countries, when you switch to a certain certification, it often means productivity goes down. But apparently, when it's well managed, as it is in Colombia, you can see that all of the bars on the left are the different certifications that you know and love. And the one in yellow is conventional coffee, a control group selected. And you can see the extraordinary difference that certifications in this country make to productivity for farmers. See the 64 on the right going to 75? That's a 15% growth rate, right? So if we take 15%, let's just assume that 20% of the farmers in that country, just 20, adopted something like that certification and had that kind of result. That in itself, on a simple economic metric for 1 year, would result in close to $50 million difference in income for that country, just that small segment. If you go to the other end of the spectrum, to the certification at the top, and if only 20% of producers did that, we're looking at well over $300 million difference for those 20% of producers in that country. So you begin to see how this gets interesting, right? But on the environmental side of things, there's also an interesting story. The story of erosion, the story of contamination, water sources, soil, and of course, human. And the stories of biodiversity. We're measuring these things and coming up with some very interesting results. Not all rosy by any means. Not all certifications are scoring well. And so this serves as a tool for those very certifications or initiatives to improve what they're doing, which is great. It also lets us know what's working and what isn't, and it gives farmers the power to choose. They can see what works in reality and what actually doesn't on the ground level with other farmers just like themselves. So they can compare and make a rational choice, not be shoved along by some anecdotal evidence or some vague ideas of what works and what doesn't. Why is the environment important? Even if you're not a tree hugger, even if you really don't care about those issues, I'd say to you that if you're smart in business, you would recognize that the environment in these places is your guarantee of those producers' future participation in your supply chain. And if you're looking for quality coffee or specialty coffee, guess what? You're going to really care about their environment, even if it's only for the simple reason of having good quality coffee in the future, having that supply chain really function. We also have social concerns. I was disturbed to find that several certifications actually ended up with women being less likely to participate. That's what the data showed. That was a bit unfortunate and very unpleasant to hear, particularly in light of this, of the increasing feminization of agricultural labor. Why is agricultural labor increasingly feminized? Because men are increasingly migrating to cities, increasingly leaving the country and going abroad where they can. leaving the women to do all of the work that's left in many communities. And those of you that go to Origin see this. We looked at certifications, comparing them, and you can see the certification is the lighter color, and then just next to it in the same color is the control group, a group of exactly the same kinds of farmers in exactly the same conditions, the same size, same distance to market, same asset base, same everything. And you can see the difference in labor that it can take to participate in a certification or a sustainability initiative, in most of them, with the exception of one in this particular case. And that's quite a statement, especially when you look at how much work most women have in these countries already to do. I guess 18 hours a day just isn't enough. Another one is children's education. And this one I think is important, because even if you look and you can say, well, that's only a few percentage points difference. About 7% doesn't sound like a lot, does it? That 7% could translate to a few thousand children in a country going to school or not. Now, does that sound like a lot to you? It does to me. So that's another component. We even looked at things like university attendance, so something that really gets those very few producers who can really catapult one of their children out of a life often of poverty, not always, but often. The difference there is extraordinary. Well over double those that are certified have children who end up going to university. We're not sure if there's a causal relationship or if it's just a coincidence so far. These are snapshots. This is our first year of work. But it's really interesting to begin to see the richness of this kind of data. So COSA, the Committee on Sustainability Assessment, we're partnering with people at Origin, partnering with local institutions to find this kind of information and to share it. And it's not just this. It's food security issues, labor rights, work conditions, a number of areas that we're looking at. And these are areas that are important because these are the areas that essentially compose our stories. These are about real coffee stories, the kinds of stories that make it personal, right? That engage not only consumers, your customers, but engage your staff. If you and your business choose to get personal, and it is a choice, it's a choice I'm inviting you to make, then what could you do? What would it matter? Well, think about what would it mean if you could educate even just one child, if that's all the difference you made by telling this story, by getting involved in that story. What if it was one little girl that you might save from destitution? Not some strange foreign little girl, a little girl that's loved just like your own daughters and nieces and friends. That same little girl. What if you could keep one family away from hunger? Would that make a difference for you? Would that be enough? I'd like to leave you with an invitation. It's a paraphrase of Albert Einstein, that you can choose to run your life, your business in this case, knowing that every moment is an opportunity for a small miracle that you can make. So please, go out and make a difference. Thank you.